Good morning. Close the door. Home is behind. The road before. The journey begun. Unexpectedly. Missing the simple life, but the road is calling. Overhead, through forest door, to cavern deep, in mountain cold, all you've ever known, now cast aside for a perilous feet and look to the day. May your path be straight and your heart be strong. And when you feel the world sweeping you away, go on, traveler, go on, and back again. Weary feet, heavy heart, home in journey's end seems so far when the world turns dark and friends turn cold, when love and kindness
Attention, soldiers, you are now entering the war zone. Please keep close to your compatriots and have your weapons at the ready. If you would like to skip the introduction, please fast forward to about 7.5 minutes. And now, Poets at War.
Once, there were 4 children, whose names were Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy.
Suppose I'm writing a novel. I write, Mary laid down her book. Next moment came a knock at the door. For Mary, who's got to live in the imaginary time of the story, there's no interval between putting down the book and hearing the knock. But I, her creator, between writing the first part of that sentence and the second, may have gone out for an hour's walk and spent the whole hour thinking about Mary.
We make things by the law in which we are made. We create because we are created.
In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit.
One ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, in the darkness bind them.
Tolkien and Lewis, both in their way, lifted me out of this world to show me a thundering beauty. And when I read the last sentence and came tumbling back to earth, I could still hear the peal. I hear it to this day. God allowed those stories to lift the veil on the imaginary world to show me the real world behind it, which ended up being, in the end, the one I was already in. The real world, at least in part, isn't out there somewhere, nor is it in my mind. It's here, right under my feet, all around me. Tolkien and Lewis held the fabric of Narnia or Middle-earth in one hand and clutched our world in the other, building a bridge across which we could set out for perilous realms, and yet return safely with some of the beauty we found there.
My first and last philosophy, that which I believe in with unbroken certainty, I learnt in the nursery. I generally learnt it from a nurse, that is, from the solemn and star-appointed priestess at once of democracy and tradition. The things I believed most then, the things I believe most now, are the things called fairy tales.
We live in a moment that's unlike any other moment, a moment of bizarre tyranny, a moment of overreach.
I was nearly torn apart by a crazy doctor.
A moment of fear. It's like, and how are we living? How are we standing up in this moment?
I was made asleep by a bunch of mangy pirates.
Are we full of joy? Like, are we characters who are full of joy and unafraid?
And eaten, got that? Eaten by a fire-breathing dragon. And not to mention being tossed, squashed, and scared practically to death.
It's like, how do we image God in this particular narrative in which we've been placed, in this chapter? And we get trained for that by reading about Sam and Frodo and Aragorn and Gandalf, and reading, Charlotte's Web and Animal Farm, and reading about Prince Caspian. Like, when you're little, you read those things and you read stories when you're older, and it reinforces what is the courageous action of a character in this moment.
Yet you stand before me.
Well, yeah.
Think, boy, what kind of an adventure would you have had if I brought you here with a turn of the page?
I wept bitterly, and then I said to myself, when everything happens quite miserably, then He sends help. I have always read so. People must first of all suffer a great deal before they can bring anything to accomplishment.
God, who at various times and in various ways spoke in time past to the fathers by the prophets, has in these last days spoken to us by His Son, whom He has appointed heir of all things, through whom also He made the worlds.
For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of the creation eagerly waits for the revealing of the sons of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of Him who subjected it in hope, because the creation itself also will be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation groans and labors with birth pangs together until now. Not only that, but we also who have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, eagerly waiting for the adoption, the redemption of our body.
minstrel boy to the war is gone. In the ranks of death you'll find him. His father's sword he hath girded on, and his wild harp slung behind him. God of song, said the warrior bard, though all the world betray thee, one sword at least thy right shall guard, one faithful harp shall praise thee. The minstrel fell, but the foeman's chain could not bring that proud soul under. The harp he loved ne'er spoke again, for he tore its cords asunder, and said, no chain shall sully thee, thou soul of love and bravery. Thy songs were made for the pure and free, they shall never sound in slavery. The chains upon the people came, and they gave away their freedom. The prophets left, they then grew lame, they accepted their false kingdom. But one young man saw the minstrel boy, and he took up the shredded strings, and with great love remade with joy the sacred tool for truth to sing.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Poets at War Live, here with Brendan Sunshine and Alexander Robertson. This is the first time we've done it, and I didn't tell them that they were going to be saying something after I mentioned their name, but they figured it out. These guys are consummate professionals, ladies and gentlemen. Well, guys, we have another out-of-pocket show because I've been building this ridiculous structure to do an audio show. We'll see if it continues and lasts, and I think it will because there's a lot of cool things we can do with audio. I'm going to be talking about some of those things today. We got somebody shooting us a bunch of celebratory emojis in the chat. What's up, everybody? But yeah, so tonight we're going to talk about a few things. Alex has mentioned that he's going to talk about his Harvard classics that you guys have seen before on the show. Behind him, they can't see you right now, Alex. It's audio. He was pointing at him. That's all right. But he's going to talk about where he's at in them and kind of give a little review of what he's done so far. I want to talk about the future of Poets at War and some of the other things that I'm doing. And Brendan is just completely brain fried from looking for tax documents all day. Hold on, gentlemen. Hold on, gentlemen. We're having an issue here that I just noticed. Let me fix this. It's the first one. It's the first show. Okay, give me just a moment. It's not so much the chat. The chat's fine. It's another thing that I'm dealing with here. Let's see here. No. So I believe, okay, let's see here. These gentlemen are not showing up in the Discord audio on here. Let me figure this out. We're going to go to please stand by while I figure this out, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure what happened. We're going to go back to standby. And figure it out. Go. Well, okay, that's going to be fun. right, we're back, people. Sorry about that. Guys, go ahead and say your piece. Say hi. Make sure this is working.
Hello there.
There we go.
Is this thing on?
It
Did
is.
Did I break it? Is it broken? Anyway, I was saying, keep your DAX documents somewhere. Make sure that you know where they are. Do not lose them. And if you file your taxes online, and for whatever reason they give you the option to say, go paperless, don't. Do not. Do not do that. Do not be paperless. Have papers. Kill trees.
Or have like really, really good digital backup of ridiculous proportions.
Really, really good. Yeah, like have backups of your backups. If it's not in 3 places, it doesn't exist.
Right.
Good rule of thumb that I've heard is 3 copies, 2 formats. No. What is it? It's like 1 backup on site, 2 off location, or 2 formats, 3 total.
Yeah, something like that.
So,
Either way.
It's 3-2-1 rule. I don't remember what it is.
That's weird.
Yeah, well,
okay, go ahead. I'm just dealing with stuff.
that's all fun and games until like having the formats in multiple locations is important, but like you need to make sure that you have something that is readable, and that's part of the reason why I'm kind of leery of digital forms, because I'm pretty sure some of the forms I need are on a computer that I currently cannot access because it's unplugged somewhere. Well, I say somewhere. I know where it is. It's in my room. The problem is it's my desktop where the motherboard is old, and so the connections are loose, and so it has a tendency to shut itself off.
Oh, no.
And so I have to plug it in and basically pray that it holds together long enough for me to get into the files.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, yeah. Anyway.
So yeah, that actually brings up a topic right away. Look, you did bring up a topic, Brendan, one that we've talked about a little bit before, but I don't think we've ever fully dived into it. We've talked about talking about it, but physical formats versus digital formatting for art and media and that sort of a thing. So shoot guys. what do you think? Anyone got anything?
Physical books are better for reading.
Physical books are better for reading. Why? Let's go into that.
Well, it is far the universal experience of everybody that I've talked to, and I talk with a kind of large amount of readers, is that you remember things better whenever you actually have a physical book in front of you. I know that is correct with me. I can do audio, and I can do physical books. Physical books are obviously a lot slower because I can listen at 3x speed and all that fun stuff. But
I'm making a face.
Brendan,
you can't see it, but I'm making a face at him when he said, "Hey, listen at 3x speed," and it's like, yeah, I mean, I do that for editing now because I want to save time, but I don't like it.
I enjoy it. I get to listen to podcasts. I can listen to 10 hours of podcasts in 3 hours.
Gosh.
But I can do audio or I can do physical book. And those are the only 2 that I can actually read. I cannot read ebooks. I don't retain anything. I can't force myself to stare at the screen.
What if have you tried an actual like e-paper e-reader? Yep. Even that.
I've got a Kindle. My mom actually has a really nice like newer Kindle that's waterproof and all that jazz. And I've tried it. Does not work. I can't do it.
Interesting.
So some of this might we kind of touched on this a while back about how there might be a generational thing where like it might be the case that newer generations, because they're growing up with screens, are capable of retaining information that they read on a screen. However, when dealing with the memory retention issue specifically, not necessarily I don't like looking at screens. That's not what I'm talking about right now. One of the things that when trying to remember something, there are these things that I like to call hooks. A hook is a external thing to the piece of information that you can hang that piece of information on, and when you and the more hooks you have in the thing, the more likely you'll be able to remember it.
Yes.
So when you're reading a physical book, not obviously it's not going to be universal because there are different variations in the sense of like each, like if you have a new edition of a book, the information might be on a different place on the page. However,
Yeah.
what is universal is that whoever's reading it can see the piece of information in a specific location on the page. And that spatial component is a hook that they can hang that information on. They can
Yeah.
remember, oh, I remember at the top of the page I read this. You can't do that with an e-medium because the screen scrolls. There
Yeah.
is no multiple pages per se, right? I mean, unless they design one where you can't zoom in, but I don't think any of them do that. I could be wrong.
Generally, when I've used them, it's they have swipe function, swipe to the next page, kind of thing, just side swipe and everything, and that's okay. But I mean, and I'm not a physical book reader. I really don't like the format. I never have. I am an audio, almost audio fully kind of person, and my whole life has been in DJing and in media production and all those other sorts of things. So I force myself to read books because there's certain books that I have that have no audio version, or I'd have to pay for them again, or they were just a gift from somebody or whatever. And so like I force myself to do it, and it's good for me. I can tell like it's like eating my vegetables. But like generally speaking, it's just hard to do that for me with the dyslexia and all that other kind of stuff. And I think oral tradition is an important thing, and I think oral language has suffered just as much as written language when it comes to you know, the downgrade of language in the past century or so.
Sure,
you know?
yeah, of course.
People don't know how to
What do you
speak.
mean by oral language suffering? Because
well, it's not just slang. I don't mean just slang. I'm talking more like people, you know, whether or not you have the head knowledge of how a sentence is structured, there is an innate thing in people who are regular speakers of a language to figure out sentence structure to make their point. Right. And to not just make their point, but it's an instinctual thing, right? You can tell if I started talking like Yoda that my sentence structure was off, right? And so there's an instinctual thing in speaking a language that doesn't fully translate to a written language, and vice versa. They're a little bit different instinctually, right? There's certain ways that you would write something with, you know, like IEs and stuff like that, that when you speak them, you sound like a like some kind of academic crazy person, right?
Like me.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Well,
the tone, but go ahead.
Well, no, but that's the thing. Like
the tone, but go ahead.
Well, no, but that's the thing. Like you're both right. Right. Okay. So I have a weird take because I literally work with digital mediums all the time, but I maintain that we should focus as much on actual physical mediums for art as possible. But we'll get back to that in a moment. But for the oral tradition, of course oral tradition is terrible. How many people now fear public speaking over death?
Right.
Yes.
You've got
public speaking is the number one fear in America. Death is number 3.
Death is number 3. I was going to make a joke, but I'm not going to. I am showing restraint. But that's the thing. Like, it's not just the verbal language that has taken a nosedive. It is the written language that has taken a nosedive, as evidenced by the fact that we had that conversation about how people think that Narnia is difficult to read. But even if you go beyond that, text language, texting, like the text shorthand, people aren't speaking in full sentences, but we understand what each other is saying because like apparently you can drop certain words and have it still make sense.
Well, this is let me pause there for a second, because even texting and Morse code and other forms of communication that is strictly for getting a point across ends up having its cipher, exactly. It ends up having its exact own set of rules that are separate from anything else, because you don't see people writing books in general text parlance. Now that may become a thing later on in the future, but like that, I'm sure it will be in the same way. There's a poet, I cannot remember the name of him right off the top of my head, which one it was, but there was a poet who started off his career doing very traditional stuff and then moved into more free form. But the big thing that he did was he refused to capitalize or punctuate anything because he believed that those things were passé. Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I know the guy you're talking about.
Yeah. And so
I capitalize random words in the sentence if I'm feeling spicy.
Yes, like SpongeBob. SpongeBob, the chicken. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. The SpongeBob meme. No, it's a meme.
It's textual sarcasm.
Textual sarcasm. You know what I'm talking about.
Random capitalization is how you convey sarcasm over text.
Oh, right. No, I mean, I will actually like capitalize the first letter of words if I want to emphasize that word by accident.
Okay.
It's just...
Side note, that happens in these. Specifically Penn. Specifically Fruits of Solitude by William Penn, founder of Pennsylvania, in case anybody's unaware of that. He capitalizes a bunch of random words. I've never seen that done before.
Yeah, I can see that.
Apparently that used to be done.
Yeah, I can see that.
It was right for written language, but okay.
He's also writing a bunch of proverbs. So like basically each sentence is set up like in its own numbered set. There's like 500 or 600 in the first volume and then another 300 in the second. But yeah, that took me a while to get used to.
So yeah. Let me see something here. This is just for my technical stuff. Y'all are gonna have to suffer through this. Alex, would you speak real quick?
'Twas brillig again the slavey tove did gyre and gimble in the wabe.
All right.
All mimsy were the bava girls.
Yep.
And the mom rats out grabe.
All right, we're getting there. Okay. I'm going to go to about there. I needed to compress you two because you were both very different volumes for some reason. So anyway, that should take care of it. Thank you. Back to the conversation though. Like, we kind of moved into language. Let's get back to the physical versus digital for just a second.
Yeah.
So what are we losing in digital? Because that seems to be the general thing that people are sort of going after. Like I said, I feel differently, but at the same time, I'm looking to sell product and generally like give people what they want, you know, as an artist and whatever else. And so I'm not, this isn't a horse that I want to, you know, why did I say a horse? There was some kind of phrase there.
This isn't a horse you want to die on.
This is a horse I want to die on. Yes, exactly.
I thought you were referencing back to an earlier episode. This isn't a horse I want to beat.
There you go. Beat that horse, Brendan. So, yeah, okay. So what, like, I don't really care particularly except for what I consume. Anyone who likes whatever they want, that's fine with me. I'm trying to understand the mindset of what we are losing in digital. There are some things that I get right away. Like I can't just hand a cassette tape anymore to somebody that I made. I get that one.
Yeah.
I totally get that one. Yeah. That's a frustration because the only thing that I can really hand to someone that they can immediately access is a QR code. And that has to be reliant upon big tech for streaming, generally speaking. Right. And so what else is there? I'm like, talk to me about it. What is the love for physical media? Obviously, go ahead.
I'll let Brendan go first. I have something.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of things that I've got in mind. Let's just deal with the one that I don't think is going to be the most controversial. When dealing, as I mentioned, I work with digital media, right? I'm a video editor. We deal with streaming platforms. We deal with social media stuff. Our videos that I make go out onto those things. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, the issue comes when we start talking about entertainment media or any kind of long form media where everything is done via streaming. I miss physical DVDs.
Agreed.
And there are two big things for why. One, it's something, and the most important one is it's something you own. You do not own the streaming platform. You do not own whatever you pay money on, like Steam. Steam for video games, Steam is like actually terrible because you do not own the game. You own the license to play the game. And so if Steam ever takes a nosedive, there's no guarantee within the Steam terms of service that you actually have what you paid for. But even if we go beyond that, like we can quibble that, okay, fine. But let's go back to like Netflix or Disney Plus or any of those things.
Google Play Movies is a big one right now. They've had to have stuff taken down, and people bought streaming rights to that stuff, you know? So, like,
Google Play Movies, that sort of thing. If you are buying a digital version, unless you have it on your own hard drive that you own, because, like, realistically speaking, there's not a huge difference between a DVD and a hard drive. They're both storage capacity, they're both digital storage, and it's just that one is the CD is, which I'm making hand motions and I just remembered we're audio only.
I've been doing it the entire night too. It's okay.
The CD and DVD, like they are custom designed to play in a special player designed to play those things. Whereas a hard drive, it's literally just memory storage, and as long as you have a computer that can access and read those files, it can. Why not digital? Why physical? I think that is the least offensive, ignoring our fight on whether or not Steam is evil or not. I use Steam. Obviously, this isn't a hill I want to die on, but like the whole idea of like licensing versus ownership, I think that's one huge thing.
Completely agree with you on as far as licensing versus ownership is a giant thing. The only reason that I'll defend Steam is that they have specifically promised, now it's not in a TOS, so yes, not legally binding, but they have said that should they ever die, which would be a crazy day because they're like bloody massive, way bigger than anybody thinks that they are. But
of course,
they have promised that should they ever take a nosedive, they will remove the DRM from all of their games, and it will just be you get the straight files. That's what they've said that they plan on doing. As I said, not legally binding, but they have a lot of goodwill with the community, and a promise is worth taking, at least a little bit more.
Yeah, as far as that's concerned, I think, and this is going back to the hooks thing, the thing that digital, and Joshua's going to disagree with me on this super hard.
I'm waiting. I'm trying to be calm and chill tonight.
Digital, what you miss with digital is that it is the only way you can interface with it is through a digital reading medium, and it's not in reality itself, save on, as Joshua would say, the grain of the tiny writing on a grain of sand, which I don't even know if that's how that works.
It is, but it's fine.
That is how that works.
But it's fine. You can say like it's so small. It's basically not a part of your physical reality because a germ is not a part of our physical reality until it interfaces with our body anyway. Like I understand that point. So we'll say we're closer than we think. I think. But go ahead.
For me, like let's back up for a second.
Go for it.
Like, because I want to try to, like, let's work through all the examples we've got here. Ebooks versus book. Well, what does an ebook do? It's on your tablet, along with every other book that you have. It does not hold a special place. It is sharing that space on that thing. Okay. Does a regular book do that? Well, technically, yes. It shares its space on a bookshelf. However, it's larger functionally, right? You know, it's that so tiny, you know, thing. When I look at the books on my bookshelf, I can identify what that book is. I can identify what that book is. I can identify what that book is. With the thing, I have to actually interface on the tab e-reader, and I recognize what that book is. I'll tap that and open it up. Okay, so far it looks like they're very similar. But then we get into the whole what we were talking about earlier with reading a book on a page. It's like, oh, you've got the hooks, you got to find where it is. It's there in front of you. You got the feel, you got the physical feeling of the book. So your memory isn't tied to the feeling that you feel 100 times because you're holding the same object, because the object itself isn't tied to the art per se that you have in a book. I'm pretty sure I'm not making sense. For me, like the next thing would be if we move on to like actual physical like paintings. I mean, I love digital paintings. I think there are amazing digital artists. I know like the fact is I love like animation and stuff like that. All of that is done digitally. But in order to see this digital art, you need a screen. Okay. You could hang multiple screens on your wall and just have each one plugged into a certain photo or video or thing like that. That can work. It gets more expensive because now you've got tech, and if it can break, so can a painting. A painting could rip. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like when you're dealing with like art, like one, your average Joe doesn't have the money for a million monitors that they can hang on their wall for certain things. And I think there is, and the fact that the monitor isn't tied to a specific image.
Yep.
Right. I think that permanency necessitates value in us. And I think, Joshua, like with your, like I'm looking at your back wall that no one can see right now, but that many people have seen on the YouTube channel, and you have a whole bunch of stuff hanging on your wall. You've got your hatchet, you've got various art from Casey, you've got
flute,
your pan flute. You have all of these things that hold value to you that are taking up space. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at, is the taking up of space in a significant way somehow at least for me, it makes physical art more real. And that's ignoring the thing you mentioned before about giving a cassette to someone, right? Like, hey, I made this, listen to it. Hey, I made this, watch it. Hey, I made this, appreciate it, right? Being able to hand it to someone and have that interaction. So
can I offer a slightly different aspect on that? Because
I've talked for too long already. Go ahead.
No, not at all. I think you've hit it right on the head. I think that items that take up space, it's more incarnational, if that makes sense. You're actually making it into a real thing, as opposed to whereas I'm all in with Joshua. Yes, that it is actually physically extant on the silicon. It does exist. It is a physical thing. However, it's more Gnostic because there are more layers that you have to go through to get that thing. Whereas I can pull a book off of my shelf and it's there.
Real quick.
It's an actual thing that exists in and of itself.
Yeah, real quick. Let me interrupt. I wanted to kind of say what, like, to view this more on a spectrum instead of an A/B kind of a thing, a 0 and a 1, if you will. But there is something in between, and that's like, so let's talk about Bibles, right? There's an e-Bible, like, whatever, an app or whatever that has the Bible on it, and then there's a physical Bible, but there's something in between that we hardly ever see anymore, but used to be really, really popular, and that is pocket Bibles. But not just pocket Bibles, really tiny pocket Bibles that you can literally only read with a magnifying glass. Now we're getting into technology again. So the smaller something becomes, the more technology you need for it, the less it is made for humans. Is that where we're going?
Yes,
all
absolutely.
Right, go for it.
This is my tie-in. This is a soapbox that I've been standing on for a long time. I'm not sure that I've actually ever brought it up on Poets at War, though, so this is very interesting.
Here we go.
It's non-places. I mentioned
note
this
to
before.
self: need a soapbox sound effect. Go ahead.
Yes. Just ka-thunk. But no, have I mentioned non-places before?
Bass reverb to it.
I was thinking someone like, look out, they have a soapbox or something ridiculous like that.
I love it.
Go ahead. And then like an angry mob. Whatever.
But have I mentioned non-places before, this concept at all?
So like liminal spaces?
Not quite liminal spaces.
Okay.
A similar concept, but not quite. So liminal spaces are weird because they're kind of non-places, but they have a specific feel to them of actual emptiness and like something threatening there because you don't know what's behind the next corner type thing. Non-places are places that locations, we should say, that could be anywhere. So the classic example of this is Dallas. Dallas, as a city, has no personality as far as its architectural style goes. You could take any virtually any building in Dallas and plop it in any other metro, and it would not look out of place.
Well,
most cities.
What'd you say?
What?
Vancouver, Canada. Vancouver, Canada. It's the city that it's literally known for turning into any other city for film sets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a non-place. It has no character in and of itself. It is simply a location that exists technically, but doesn't have any markers to itself. This is something that came about with the Bauhaus movement in the late 20th century, or late 20th century. I was right the first time. Because they were specifically trying to strip back to the material itself and have no ornamentation. Compare that to villages or towns or even cities that were built before you had this mass production model, and you can't mistake Copenhagen for Vienna. You can't mistake Venice for Rome. They're places. Even outside of like Vienna or Venice and Rome, even outside of the canals in Vienna, the architecture is different. It's completely different. It has a completely different feel to it. That's a place. The places that we build now, the locations that we build now, are non-places because they have no individuality to them, primarily because they're built for machines. We don't build cities for humans anymore. We build cities for cars. The measurement that we use for cities is how long does it take for a fire engine to get there?
Yeah, that was actually something that I heard that was really interesting, is that like British person was saying that Americans don't measure distance in miles, they measure distance in time.
Yeah. But specifically drive time. Not even, it's a 5-minute walk that way. It's drive time.
Well,
we have urban sprawl.
Well, this is one of those weird things too, because we still use imperial measurements in general, but we have some variations on it, such as the time thing you mentioned. But like the whole point of using an imperial method versus a metric situation is that it's actually based upon human bodies. Well, I've heard your dad talk about this a lot in podcasts and other things. And so like, yeah, this is one of the things. Is it made for humans, or is it made for machines? You could do the exact same thing about digital files, but I think a big reason for the push recently away from digital files is because of illiteracy for computers, of the fact that DRM is literally robbing someone of the thing they bought. And I will stomp on that. I will stand on that hill and stomp on it until I am killed.
Go ahead. I mean, I'll stomp with you.
There you go. And as far as anything else goes, I think we had a good broach of this topic. We might come back to it. I want to get to the Harvard Classic stuff next, but we're going to go ahead and take a break. This is our first live commercial break, so I'm going to see what I can do here. Let's see if this works, hopefully.
Attention, everyone. We're about to go to a commercial break. Blake and Blake. I don't know who Blake is, but here's the commercial.
Attention all Christian writers and creative peoples. Are you searching for a place to share your work and receive encouragement from fellow wordsmiths? Look no further than the Broodcast. Inspired by the legendary Inklings of old, a group of writers who banded together during the Second Great War. The Broodcast is your monthly gathering for inspiration, fellowship, and critique. Join us as we share our stories and support our fellow soldiers on our creative missions. Enlist in the Broodcast community today at joshuadavidling.com/brood. Travel cyberspace. Serve the greatest cause. Join the ranks of the Brood today.
In the heart of Atlanta, a city teetering on the edge of chaos, 4 extraordinary individuals rise as the Guardians of Atlanta, an unstoppable force against the encroaching shadows. William Crusader Avery, a knight with unwavering faith, leads this divergent team, joined by Cirrus Cyclone Jones, a weather controller gifted with angelic power. Bobby the Great Phantasma Carter, a master illusionist capable of bending light itself. And Amira Mira Kadru, a seemingly innocent young woman with the ability to copy powers and knowledge. As part of the coalition of underground resistances against global empire, Courage, they stand as city's last line of defense against political machinations and ancient evils seeking to plunge Atlanta into darkness once more. Brace yourself for a thrilling journey into the world of Courage universe, where epic poetry meets superheroes in Guardians of Atlanta, an electrifying serial releasing continuously in ebook, MP3, and animated.
And we're back on Poets at War. Hopefully Blake has figured whatever's going on out. Brendan, you had one more thing. Go for it.
Oh, you are throwing me under the bus. Okay.
No, Sergeant
no.
Ollie threw you under the bus.
Oh, sorry, Sergeant Ollie.
Don't worry about it, Brendan. Everything is just fine.
He needs to stop doing that. Go ahead.
So the short version is that it's another connection to the removal idea, but with classical mediums as opposed to digital mediums. This is something that comes up in art, particularly like painting a lot. They talk about classical versus digital, but with classical mediums, with like you get the feeling of oil on canvas, you get paper, and I get mentally that yes, silicone, sand, all of that is still made, but a lot of the times it's made by machines and things like that. So there's that technological removal of the creation process of the medium. And then when you, whereas like with paper or carving wood or things like that, I wonder if there is an enchanted aspect of the world itself from the enchanted world that we are missing from the creation of art in the more classic that you get in the more classical mediums that you don't with the digital, because of that like layers of removal that we're missing. That was what I wanted to bring up, but that's opening a can of worms, and we have books we need to get to.
We'll come back to it. We'll another time.
Absolutely.
You know. So this is a good conversation. I don't fully agree with you, but I don't fully disagree either. I think there's something there to definitely be discussed. Alex, let's talk about your books, the giant red books across your shelf that you've been showing off in video format and whatever else. And yes, flaunting, that's a good word. And you've been starting to actually super read through them. Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So at the advisement of Jason Farley, not personally, but over Nox Unplugged, because Nox Unplugged is a fantastic podcast. Everybody should go listen to it.
Absolutely.
But I purchased the Harvard Classics. Now, background, in case anybody is unfamiliar. In, I believe, 1911, I could be wrong on the year, but I believe 1911, Dr. Charles Eliot, the then president of Harvard, was on a speaking tour across the United States. And one of the questions he was asked was, how does one who didn't, whenever they were young, receive a Harvard education? And he thought about it for a second, and he said, well, all you really need is about 5 feet of bookshelf, and you can receive a Harvard education. And whenever he got back to Harvard after he was done with his tour, they had several letters saying, okay, you said 5 feet of bookshelf. What books? And so they commissioned him to compile and edit this set of books, the Harvard Classics 5-foot shelf of books. And it is just a Western liberal education, including everything from, this is the first volume, I'm completely done with this one. It's Autobiography of Benjamin Franklin, Journal of John Woolman, and Fruits of Solitude by William Penn, once again, founder of Pennsylvania. To Milton's Prose, to the Pilgrim's Progress, Donne and Herbert, John Bunyan, folklore from Aesop, Grimm, and Anderson, The Divine Comedy by Dante, Faust, Locke, Machiavelli, Luther, Faraday. So there's even some like science textbooks in there because that was considered part of a liberal education. It isn't just literature, it's also like the hard sciences. The book that I'm currently reading is Plato, the Phaedo, I think is what it's called. Yeah, Phaedo, by Plato. And it's very interesting because it's a philosophy text, but he's bringing in math and a bunch of weird stuff. It's also super cool to see that the language that Paul uses is influenced by the language that Plato uses, but it's been baptized and now means completely different things, which is super cool. But yeah, I'm going through, and if I can stay on target, today I wasn't able to get anything read, but if I can stay on target, I should be able to read through the entire 5-foot shelf of books in about 2 years, reading 50 pages a day.
There we go. Not a small amount.
So yeah,
not a huge amount.
Not a small amount at all.
Yeah. It's a good amount, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of the first 3 in the first volume that you read?
Well, okay, so Autobiography of Franklin was very interesting. Obviously, dude lived a crazy cool life. And this was before the autobiography doesn't really deal with his contributions during the American Revolution, or War for Independence, to be more accurate. It's his life before that. So as a printer, him going to London, all that type of stuff. And it's just a really interesting story. He lived a crazy interesting life, and he writes very well. He uses a lot of like interesting obscure words that I hadn't heard before, which is a rarity for me. So that one was good, solid. I don't really have a rating system for books yet, but I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. Maybe a 7 out of 10. Journal of John Woolman. I was not a fan of it, personally. It is very much, I went here, I did this thing. John Woolman seems like a relatively interesting guy. He was, as far as I can tell, the firebrand that started the abolitionist, slavery abolition movement in the Quaker community. And so he would go around to various Quaker meetings and say, okay, this is what I believe. We should not be doing slavery anymore. People, come on. And that was his life. There were like 3 sections in the book that I actually found to be, relatively interesting. Oh yeah, I'm going to go back and reread that type stuff. Other than that, very dry. Fruits of Solitude by William Penn, on the other hand, is absolutely fantastic. As I said before, it's a book of proverbs, and so just wise sayings, but instead of the sort of randomized proverbs that you get at past the first 6 chapters of the book of Proverbs, it actually all flows one from the other. So he starts with friendship and then moves to commitment, and then moves from that to marriage, and then moves from marriage to children, then moves from children to a household, and just wise sayings regarding all of that in order.
Baptize them babies.
Well, he was a Quaker. They don't believe.
They don't sacraments. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah, absolutely baptize your babies though.
Yes.
But yeah, that's what that was. It was very good. The first section of the book, because it's split into 2, was significantly better in my opinion than the second one. The first 50 pages of that were the easiest 50 pages I've ever read in my life. I mean, I read them in a solid hour and a half. It felt like about 30 minutes.
Nice.
It was great.
It was like reading Twitter.
Right off of...
But good.
Exactly, yes. But especially coming right off of Journal of John Woolman, which was, as I said, super dry. Just these witty one-liners again and again and again and again was a breath of fresh air. It was very, very nice. And then now I'm on to Plato, and I liked the apology. I liked the Crito, however you're supposed to pronounce that. And Phaedo's really kicking me. So
there you go. Very nice.
Yep, that's my experience with the Harvard Classics so far.
I didn't realize you said Anderson's in there, as in Hans Christian.
Yeah.
Very good.
Aesop, Grimm, and Anderson, right there.
I'm glad to hear that he's in the 5-foot bookshelf, honestly, because he gets overlooked a lot by the people who... I feel like everyone mentions Grimm before they mention Anderson because he was more only slightly though more modern than the Grimms who compiled all these older stories. And Anderson's stuff is basically like, I think he does a little bit of actual folklore type stuff, but his stuff's pretty much original, loosely based on older stuff. So the fact that he's in there is pretty cool to me because he kind of reshaped fairy tales.
Yeah, so the stuff that they the stuff that they included from Anderson is Ugly Duckling, the Swineherd, the Emperor's New Clothes, the Little Sea Maid, which is Little Mermaid, right?
Yeah.
The Elfin Mound, the Wild Swans, the Garden of Paradise, the Constant Tin Soldier, the Daisy, the Nightingale, the Storks, the Darning Needle, the Shadow, the Red Shoes, Little Ida's Flowers, the Angel, the Flying Trunk, the Tinderbox, the Buckwheat, and the Bell.
They don't have the Little Match Girl. That's crazy. But that was the only one that I didn't see or didn't hear. The Little Match Girl. Everything else, like they hit all the main stories. That's fantastic.
Is the Tinderbox the Little Match Girl?
No, Tinderbox is a different story.
Different one.
Yeah. Okay. He has a lot of like match and Tinder, and the Steadfast Tin Soldier is actually the same. Like it involves fire and matches. That's a common motif of his is like fire and matches, which I think is interesting. I think he may have been specifically trying to get kids to not play with them, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, entirely probable.
So yeah, that's exciting.
When was this?
What?
When was all this compiled?
When were these books compiled?
I believe 1911.
Dang.
Why?
Because, like, I personally think that On Fairy Stories should be in that list.
Oh, absolutely, it should. Yeah, I want to see a modern classics. Yes.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of stuff that should be like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. You know, whatever, or at least passages from Lord of the Rings should be in there.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. And there is a secondary shelf to go along with this that is 23 volumes, I think, that is a shelf of fiction.
Okay.
And that's your Shakespeare, I know it's Shakespeare. I think Austen is there as well.
Yeah, probably like Sherlock Holmes or something.
Possibly, though, that would have been really close to this because Sherlock Holmes was late 1800s and this was early 1900s. I just looked at the published date.
That's true.
Published date for the volume 1 was 1909.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Anytime you bring these up,
should definitely be in a more modern one.
Anytime you bring this up, like I flash back to my grandparents of my mom's parents. They owned and operated several bookstores throughout their life, and my grandmother in particular was such an unbelievably avid reader. She was just so into learning about history and all these sorts of things. My grandfather was more into like the military history side of things, you know, those kind of guys who read almost nothing but military histories and so whatever else. But my grandmother like literally read everything and just gave herself that education, you know, with every book she purchased, you know. So that's really cool.
Is Thomas Mallory's Mort d'Arthur in there, or Death of Arthur for us non-French speakers?
I don't think it's in this shelf. It might be in the fiction shelf.
Yeah.
I think it's in the fiction shelf. I obviously don't own that, so I can't actually go look at it yet. If I can keep up 50 pages for a year and get halfway through this, I'm going to reward myself by getting the fiction shelf. But I'm not going to do that unless I can actually finish it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So,
oh,
you chewed
boy.
through one book already.
Yeah.
A little, 2 books actually. I think you're on your
He's
third, right?
he's on his second book.
No, I'm on volume 2.
You're on volume 2. Okay.
Yeah.
What else is in volume 2?
It is Plato, Epictetus, I believe is how you pronounce that name, and then Marcus Aurelius, Meditations.
Gotcha.
So it's the Apology of Socrates, Crito, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm not sure. Sorry to any classics people out there. And then Phaedo by Plato. Then I think it's just called the the Golden Sayings of Epictetus, and then Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. So
Cool.
that's this volume. Then the next one is Bacon and Milton's Prose.
Ooh, gay.
I'm really excited to get to Milton.
Yeah.
Yum, bacon.
I need to get to Milton too. I know enough about Milton that I feel like, it's one of those things, I know a lot about it, but I haven't really dived in yet. It's on my list.
I can't wait to get to Milton, and then another the next volume is all Milton. It's all of his poetry. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Past that is Divine Comedy. And I can't wait to get to that one.
Speaking of Divine Comedy.
Because I haven't read it.
Speaking of Divine Comedy, I, through various measures totally legal, sent you Over the Garden Wall, and that's on your list to get to as well.
Yes, it is. It's definitely on my list to get to.
Yeah,
I need to watch that still, actually.
You haven't seen it either. Okay, well, I sent him the link.
My family
Alex.
watched it, and I've seen pieces and bits, but I haven't. They were watching it when I was like in Taiwan, and so I'm like, I can't watch this with you guys.
Right.
What are you doing?
Yep. So it is the creators sort of it's almost if you mixed sort of that Adventures in Odyssey spirit of kids playing out in the woods and using their imaginations mixed with like Stranger Things creepiness and kid vibes and whatever else mixed with the Divine Comedy.
It is Dante's Inferno. No,
Yeah.
I know it's Dante's.
Yeah. So
I know
you know
that much.
Hey, you're saying good night? Hazel wants to say good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night, Hazel.
Good night, Hazel. Happy birth mess.
Good night.
Now we may need to add a good night Hazel song. Good night, Hazel. Good night, Hazel.
I'm done with this.
Needs
Good
to
night,
be
Hazel. It's time
added.
to go to bed.
I'll do like some harmonies on it or something, and I can use it as soundboard. Cool. So, all right, Hazel. Good night. Love you. Go on. Go on, sweetie. She's being silly.
But
all right,
yeah,
close the door,
so
please. Thank you.
That's what this is so far. Wealth of Nations is another one. So
Wealth of Nations.
Yep.
So many
Don't
good
know why
things.
I said it that way.
Because you've realized finally you're in audio and people have to deal with your weird noises.
Look, man, I've got a face for radio, and I actually used to be really good at radio when I was doing radio work in Taiwan, but that's aside the point.
Oh, I didn't know you did that. That's cool. Was it
It was a very
English
cool
radio?
Yes.
Cool.
Actually, yes. At some point, I'll explain it, but basically, there was an article that's tied to a radio broadcast, and so they would read the article and listen to the radio broadcast. So
there you go. There you go.
Interesting.
All right. Well, I think we're moving on to the next topic. I'm going to go ahead and do the...
And now we're going to a commercial break. We'll be back in the trenches on Poets at War.
Are you looking for thought-provoking Christian perspectives that bring unity across denominations? Then you'll want to check out Logosophia magazine. As a free online interdenominational publication, Logosophia publishes a variety of creative works like articles, stories, and poems on different theological themes each quarter. Their goal is to have respectful conversations that highlight our shared beliefs outlined in the Apostles', Nicene, and Athanasian creeds, as we clarify our differences. So if you want to dive deeper into your faith while learning from other Christian expressions, subscribe to Logosophia magazine today on their website or listen to their podcasts. We look forward to journeying with you.
I'm Ian Wilson. and I create graphic art using primarily traditional methods, supplementing with digital where it's needed. I use a real pen, a real paper, a real graphite to make my art. I like to feel my art. I've always been this way. I love the feeling of a pen or pencil in my hand, the sound of graphite scratching paper, and I love the sight of a nice black line making its way across the page. So why choose traditional art over digital? Traditional art has an organic, natural quality that seems to be missing from most digital illustrations. The illustrated books and comics that were made in the days before digital have an excellence and staying power that is just as vibrant now as it was decades ago. These are the stories that stay with you. Dr. Seuss, Winnie the Pooh, Where the Wild Things Are. People still read these. I'm currently working on my own graphic novel series, Legend of the Swordbearer, and I've also had the privilege to draw graphics for 2 motion comic series, along with illustrations for a small magazine, Logosophia magazine, and various book covers. Don't let traditional art fade into the dust. Help me keep it alive. You won't regret it. Visit my website at ianthomaswilson.com for more.
And now we're back in the trenches on Poets at War to talk about all kinds of cool things about this show in particular and the weirdness
That generally, and I wasn't even doing it, and, words!
That's it. See, I totally messed that up. But it's fine. It's fine. That's actually the perfect segue into what we're going to be talking about this show. Don't worry, I'm going to get better at it. I hide behind my editing a lot, and this is my attempt, generally speaking, to stop that, because I feel like there's been a lot of dynamism in this show, in my opinion, that has been
absolutely, there has been
really fun, and I enjoy performing live, and it's something that I've enjoyed for a long time, going back to DJing and taking, I literally had to learn, if you fall while dancing, make it part of the dance. I literally had to learn how to do that. And I think that this is my way forward in that regard. I think YouTube is generally looking for more streamers as far as this kind of thing, and my hardware is not there yet. So if y'all want to be sending me stuff to make the hardware better, just contact me and let me know. But guys,
do you still have your Trello board up? Or
I
your,
had
Amazon
it.
Wish list?
I don't think I have a link to it anywhere, but it does exist. Okay. I'll eventually get that back and link it. But it's one of those things where I don't have a computer that can really run the video aspect, but I'd love to do all of this in video too eventually. But I also really like the idea of doing audio shows more regularly, because you can kind of create atmosphere. We haven't done a ton of that tonight outside of our normal show, but this is to get transition to whatever this is going to be. I like not having to worry about looking at the camera or figuring out that sort of a thing. Not that I normally do, but I'm mostly looking over here at you guys most of the time because I don't have my teleprompter anymore. But yeah, basically speaking, I am hopeful that we can start doing more things with the audio rather than less. Possibly in some categories, if the shows might grow longer. I don't know. That might be fun, depending on what people want to do. They might become a little bit more, we could do more reaction type stuff, much easier because we're not dealing with as much copyright with audio except in music, right? And we can react to things and people can imagine. I really like the idea of people having to imagine these things more. It's a nice soft way to get people to use their own imaginations more. One of the things that I wanted to bring up is the possibility of when we move to a further format, as far as letting this format evolve, I would really, really like, after we finish our princesses, to go through a certain book. I'm going to grab it off my shelf. Just one moment.
And off he goes.
Entertain the people for me.
Entertain
Are
the
they
people
not entertained?
Listen here, you little.
You see, he said, "Are you not entertained?" My first thought was to get us copyright struck the first time by just singing Nirvana.
They would be entertained by a copyright strike. They would form mobs and stuff. Anyway, all right. This book here, I'm showing it to you guys, not to them, but it is the Golden Books Family Treasury of Poetry. And
I think my family has that.
It is a wonderful book, and it has really awesome illustrations and stuff all throughout. Really fantastic book, but it's actually it is selected with commentary by Louis Untermeyer. And generally speaking, I love the selection of poems in that book. They are fantastic, and I really kind of want to give people a little bit of a primer on poetry and get into the different, because I mean, it's poets at war, right? Like I'm poet guy and whatever else. And I want to kind of dive into that, and we could even do a couple poems if they're short, you know, that kind of a thing, but like actually go in and start working through it, because I think that people, generally speaking, and this would be all commentary, so the copyright on the book is not something to worry about, because it's more our commentary than the book. But the main thing, I feel like there's so many formats and things, not just poetry. There's others that I'd like to tackle in the future that people just, we've been pigeonholed into this category of like, there's podcasts, there's news and nonfiction, generally speaking. There's all kinds of, you know, basic formats that everybody kind of shoehorns themselves into. And that didn't always used to be the case. There were people who made up whole different mediums. I was watching an interview with a guy today. The channel is the RMC Man Cave. It's a British guy who created a museum of like old gaming technology and stuff in England. It's a cool place.
Okay.
And he does great stuff, but he was interviewing one of the early Apple II Broderbund developers, not developers. He was a game maker, right? And he started very, very young. And he saw in the 70s, the late 70s, that video games themselves could be as ubiquitous a medium as film and television, right? And so he was a visionary and was moving that way and trying to create this stuff as a late teenager in the 70s, and created games like Prince of Persia and, you know, all kinds of other really important games on the Apple II. I think that that's a modern version of what various people throughout history have done, in that this is going back to being human and making it for humans, right? Yes, you can create a medium and a business around a certain, you know, format and keep that up. But you can also branch out and create different things, and it doesn't have to always fit in the box. And so with poetry, it's an old form that we're not used to. I would like to teach the tropes and learn the tropes, if you guys are down. And I'd love to go into other formats too. I'm not sure of the ones off the top of my head, but I know that there are many out there. You know, talk about the epics, talk about other sorts of, you know, troubadours.
Y'all ready to learn dactylic hexameter?
Yes.
I am. No.
But
I've never even heard of that.
Hexameter was bad. Dactylic hexameter will ruin your brains.
Dactylic is dactylic 10 or
many?
What?
10.
Oh no,
10. I'm pretty sure it's 10.
Okay. So it's dactylic hexameter, 6 syllables a line?
Well, okay.
Now I'm gonna look it up.
I actually don't know what dactylic hexameter is. I just know that it's like a lot of epic, like Homer, Iliad.
Okay. It is in dactylic hexameter.
Is in dactylic hexameter.
It is a form or
Right, that's-
meter of or rhythmic scheme frequently used in ancient Greek and Latin poetry, like you said. The scheme of hexameter is usually as follows: writing for long syllable. Excuse me. Yeah, they give a visual for it, so I can't really do that.
Can you say long short short long short long short long long short or
Sure.
something like that?
Yeah, if I can not go dyslexic on this. Okay, so it looks like it would be okay, that is for long and that's for short. Okay, so it would be long short short, long short short, long short short, long short short, long short short.
Okay.
So
That's
not actually not that
actually
bad.
as terrible.
There's a form that I'm really fond of using for certain things recently. Called I say ballade. I have no clue if this is actually how you pronounce it or not, but it's a ballad with an E on the end, so I say ballade because I'm, American.
It's probably oldie Englishy.
Oldie
When
Englishy.
they add
It
e's
could
at
be.
the end of things.
So
it's just ballad. but
Yeah.
with
The
an E.
Old English added e's at the end of things, and
Not
the modern English
necessarily.
add u's.
No, it's a joke, especially at Ren fairs where like ye olde olde
Yeah.
thing. It might be a holdover from Anglo-Saxon, I don't know, but yeah, and American English just removed the U from a whole bunch of words.
So
as we should, because whenever you think about it, the American War for Independence was really just a giant breakup. We were getting rid of you.
My gosh, go away. Oh, that's a good joke. I need to steal that and use it on my son.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh man.
Why am
You're
I
ready
not...
to be a dad.
Okay. All right.
The only requirement to be prepared to be a dad is to be the capacity to tell dad jokes.
Yep, pretty much.
So
the form of this it's 3 8-line stanzas in a 4-line envoy with a rhyme scheme of A B A B B C B C, and then another set that's B C B C. I just do the beginning part of it, the A B A B B C B C, which is really cool when you hear it out loud.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah. So I really enjoy it. I might pull up Ballad of Harbingula just to.
I was gonna
give
say
you a
Ballad of
taste.
Harbingula is written in that, right?
It is, yes. So this is it's good in itself. I'm not going to give a whole lot of context, but it is from my superhero stories, and this is sort of like I'm just going to read one or two I'll read 2 stanzas just so you get the idea. This is
and then everybody
villain origin.
Go read it.
Yes.
Go read the entire poem. I'm sure he'll post it.
Yeah. That's it's joshuadavidling.com/GOA89, numbers 8 and 9. All right. Snow fell from the silent above in that tiny village in the east, where homes were full of Christian love, brought joy from greatest to least, and warmth and fellowship at every feast, save the darkness that loomed within. The 12-year-old daughter of the priest, no one would survive her sin. Though no reason was given for her switch, she radiated darkness throughout. She practiced the art of a witch, secretly, with none knowing about, how gleeful and without a doubt she planned and executed her scheme. Though she seemed pious and devout, fiery hell ran through her bloodstream. So, yeah, that's fun.
I really love Ballad of Harbingula.
Yeah, it's a good one. I had a fun time with that one. So, yeah. Play with poetry's playful, guys. You can do cool stuff with it. You can write.
Yes. You can do something like there once was a man from Cork who confused haikus and limericks.
Yes, exactly. That's wonderful. But I legitimately love limericks and well-written haikus. I think there's too much garbage in haikus,
Yes.
but that's a whole other thing.
Oh, of course there is.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
Because
course
they're
there is,
easy. But
yep.
Easy.
Well,
Yeah.
right. Yes, if you don't pay attention to all the rules, and nobody ever does.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. But yeah, I really, really have enjoyed how this has gone so far. Obviously, there's some screw ups and whatever else, but I'm sure they were comedic and have some value to you.
Someone has value.
There you go.
Wait, no, that's not
someone.
What I
Someone out there. Okay. Is there anything further we want to touch on, or do we want to go ahead and wrap this puppy?
I think we can wrap. I don't have anything to touch on. Brendan might.
I mean, I don't. Not specific to this. I mean, like you have a plan, and that's sort of the weird thing. Like, it's like, hey, we always some people are like, no plan survives contact with the enemy, but you're actually trying to stick through with the plan. So good on you.
Appreciate it.
Like, we'll do the best. We'll do our best doing this thing live. We'll do it live. Do it live. And we'll win eventually.
Yes. I'm down for winning. Everybody, be your family's bard. Do not turn to the right or to the left. And the Lord will be with you wherever you go. We'll see you next time in the trenches on Poets at War. Don't worry, they're still saluting. It's fine. And let's do this one.
For more Poets at War and other sorts of things like the Ballad of Harbingula, please go to joshuadavidling.com. We'll see you all very soon. And we'll see if I can actually hit the right buttons.
God of song said